When I think of 3 months without a specific context, it doesn't seem like any special long or short amount of time. I think most people wouldn't think much about 3 months in the absence of a purpose, but studying abroad has given this past 3 months this said context. Countless plane, train, taxi, and bus rides, dragging luggage so much it has given its name truth, deciphering accents and seeing so many museums and cathedrals I would take naps in them, is a description of the challenge held in my experience. But what would challenge be without the joy that makes it worth it? The laughter shared over a drink in a pub that would otherwise be illegal for me in America, collective screaming over jumping into a freezing cold lake, riding bikes along a peaceful river in the sunshine, eating gelato 3 times a day on spring break, getting soaked in the pouring rain and thinking the way it makes us feel closer to home, and learning about towns that are thrice as old as the country I live in. I believe I've grown in ways I didn't even consider I would. This trip has allowed me to feel confident in travel and in myself. I have learned how to be a beacon of light amongst time of struggle and take advantage of the opportunities and experiences that were offered to me. After all, I did get awarded the YOLO award from my dear friend Kayla Pruitt. Ironically, although I do not like the phrase YOLO, I used it often as motivation to push myself to take advantage of the opportunities that I felt would reassure me that I was making the most of my trip. I've always thought I was a pretty comfortable in myself person, and sometimes I think that goes hand in hand with confidence. But returning from the trip has told me that my confidence has skyrocketed, especially in terms of travel and independent responsibility. One of the most terrifying and lonely experiences was my flight back from Florence to London. I had mistakenly ordered a plane ticket for the month after, and so not only did I lose money, I felt guilty because I had to have Kristen spot me for the plane ticket. Even in those moments, I learned how blessed I am to have selfless, generous friends. I was then on my own, waiting in the airport for about 5 hours just to see where my checkout counter was. Trying to remain stable and positive, I got through security and waited for a couple more hours to wait for my already delayed plane. Getting ready to board from the shuttle that would take us to the plane, a large crowd and I wondered for a good half hour why the shuttle wasn't moving. Turns out we had mechanical difficulties to wait even more for on the plane. Again, trying to keep patient and sane, I waited in exhaustion until we finally boarded as the last plane to depart that night. The airport we were supposed to fly in was now closed, so we got diverted to another airport where I was of course held up in customs for no good reason. The provided transport had already left, and thank goodness I found a group of ladies that were going in on a taxi. I finally made it to the hostel, dropped my bags, and being greeted by my patient friends, tears poured out of my eyes. This mix-up of a day made me feel vulnerable, but told me how capable I was. In terms of travel alone, that was one of the most profound experiences that had evidently made me into a weathered traveler. As far as the YOLO thing goes, I wouldn't have had it any other way. Because of my inspiration to live abundantly on my trip, I was almost blown off the coast while simultaneously getting pelted by rain in the face, yet laughed in light of it. I held 2 beautiful owls. I jumped into an ice-cold lake with 10 of my new best friends. I rock climbed a mountain and made it to the top all alone. I developed lots of new pieces of art. I took 463 steps to get to the top of the Duomo in Florence. I flipped through several original manuscripts from Romantic poets. All of this to say, my trip was full.
It was full of adventure, full of loving people, who now make up my family, full of love and pain both physical and emotional, full of lessons we cannot replace, full of understanding and not understanding, full of missing life back home but being able to return with excitement to hear what it's held. Led by amazing leaders and supported by my family and friends back home, I was able to hold a portion of the globe in my hands, to be and breathe in life elsewhere.
Perhaps the hardest challenge is reintroducing myself to the daily life I'm accustomed to, but knowing I've missed so much of it, yet knowing I had my own life for the past 3 months. A timeline of an academic, emotional, and physical education, and the most I can do is to share this with the people who I care deeply about. That's one of the greatest honors. to share one of the most wonderful life experiences with the most wonderful joys of my life, the people.